This podcast contains strong language and adult situations. If that's not your thing, you've been warned.
Welcome back to the Fuck My Work Life podcast.
Hey everybody, I'm Kay.
And I'm Jay.
And this is the podcast where we read your workplace stories to you, or more recently, we have people come on and tell their workplace stories. And today we have Josh and Adam from the Munch, My Benson podcast. Hey guys.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going?
Thank you for joining us.
I'm Josh.
Yeah, he's Josh. I'm Adam. Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, thank you
definitely. Thank you for coming on.
So I'm kind of fangirling a little bit because I've been listening to you guys since I think fall of last year. I was listening to the Especially Heinous SVU podcast, and they mentioned you guys. And I was like, Munch My Benson, that is the best fucking name for a podcast ever. Yeah. I have to listen to this. And I started from the beginning, and my OCD made me do it from the first episode all the way through in order. And I finally got caught up a couple months ago. And I really love your guys' podcast. So tell us about your podcast.
Well, it actually grew out of a blog that we made together something like 12 or 15 years ago, some ungodly long time ago.
I think it's 12 years ago. I think it started in 2007 or 8.
Yeah. There was a period when I in particular was making these like throwaway little Blogspot blogs just on a whim. I made several of them, and usually it was just like a joke, and I'd keep it up for like a week or two. And I think we kept ours up, I don't know, maybe a couple months. We have a few posts on it. Then we just kind of dropped away. And then we're kind of figuring out what to do, and the pandemic hit, and both of us were suddenly unemployed. And we decided to resuscitate the blog as a podcast. And we've been going strong. I mean, we've done every single week since we started, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, come hell or high water, we've both moved in the process of doing this
across the fucking country too. Like both of us, it was not short distances that we moved.
No, and so our podcast, I guess. So we have actually our friend built a randomizer for us. We were using a much dirtier randomizer at the beginning, and we roll a random episode of Law & Order SVU. So it's kind of the same way as watching an episode on USA or something like that. Sorry, my wife is sneezing in the background.
Bless you.
That wasn't a pterodactyl?
we roll
Fucking Jurassic Park is happening in the background.
No, seriously. Yeah. Of all the New York sounds, that's what I wasn't expecting. But yeah, so we watch an episode and then we break it down. We're extremely rigorous with how we dissect an episode. We talk about in the last one we watched, we talk a lot about anal blood and
a lot of butt blood,
motile sperm. So lots of things going on that we get to talk about.
Motile sperm in a butt.
Oh man, that one hasn't aired yet, has it?
Oh no, that we recorded that on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So you got something to look forward to.
Hey.
Yeah. Nothing like some anal blood.
Oh,
Yep. Gotta have the butt blood. The first fucking minute 15 of that episode is holy shit. You are just floored with how much foul shit happens.
That's why I love SVU so much. It's so fucking ridiculous, but like I can't. I've watched it from start to finish probably 4 times now, and I love it so much, even though it's real bad, but it's just
sometimes
so good.
It can be good. There are episodes that are actually like sincerely, legitimately good, but the ones that are fucking batshit crazy, I mean, I think they're generally more fun, right?
Which is a lot of them.
Yeah.
I don't really watch it that much, but when she's watching it, I'll watch it. And there's times where shit happens on the episode and I just want to like stare at her, like,
oh, absolutely.
This is what you watch.
Are you fucking kidding me right now?
It's the longest running scripted show in like at least in primetime TV.
Scripted
history.
hour long. Scripted hour long.
Yeah,
because The Simpsons has been on longer, but
I started listening to your podcast, and I went back like 5 or 6 episodes and listened to a couple episodes. And I think like 2 episodes I listened to, and then I was like, okay, I got to start from the beginning. And I started from the beginning, and today I finished, what is it? Dick Wolf being Dick Wolf, the very first episode.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And apologies, right? It like the first 10 episodes, my audio is fucking dog shit.
Yeah.
And I was recording through like earbuds, the mic on earbuds.
Oh, okay.
And so then we were also dealing with like some crazy phasing shit that was happening because like we'd get out of sync on Zoom and then his audio was coming through my channel. And so it was a whole fucking, it was, don't record podcasts that way, kids.
Yeah, Josh also recorded in like an underground concrete bunker for 2 episodes, which is like, it's real rough for a couple of them.
Yeah, it's fucking. We were in Scottsdale for 3 or 4 days, and we recorded there, and like the entire fucking house has concrete floors.
Oh wow!
Oh,
and so it was just like it sounded like I was in a fucking cave. But whatever, that's somewhere else.
Yeah. Now Josh lives in a cave, so it's appropriate. Yeah. But I think he has carpeted floors, right? Because your audio is gorgeous.
They're wood floors.
I mean, it sounds good.
I mean, it's better than room.
No, I'm definitely gonna start making my way through your podcast because it's fucking hilarious.
Oh my God.
Thanks.
Like you guys, you pull out so much shit from the episode that I'm just, I haven't seen it, but I can like, what the fuck?
Yeah. We also, I mean, we definitely make a concerted effort to like cut in enough audio to give you like a baseline, and then our recaps are detailed enough that if you haven't seen the episode or haven't seen it in a long time, you still theoretically wouldn't have to watch and could like follow along. So like that's definitely kind of one of the goals of what we're doing, to make it so you don't have to have watched it in the last week.
Yeah.
Our goal is to educate the listener too. So it's not just about the show, it's about everything behind the show.
I mean, you definitely do that.
Yes.
Like when Adam, I cut like 15 minutes of Adam talking about the Congo.
Yeah.
Oh.
In that Diora Baird episode, like he's there's still 20 minutes in there of him, and this is like off the top of his fucking head talking about it. Like he had nothing prepared about the Congo and talked about the Congo for 35 minutes.
I should have prepared something. It would have been
a lot easier for me to edit. But
you guys also have some of the best names for your episodes.
Yes.
I wrote down a couple of my favorite. So the first one is, they're not going to de-sex Hargitay for the sake of an undercover operation.
That's a classic.
Yeah, that's it. I'm always pleased when I see whichever, like when it's not mine, when I see whatever one Adam has chosen, and I don't know, it just tickles me when it's like one of those like, oh God, I can't believe we said that, because it's almost always like pulled from something that we have said that was awful.
Yeah,
but
I know a lot of times I'll be listening and I don't really look at the name of the episode. I'll just listen to it when it shows up in my app, and I'll be listening and be like, oh my God, that's a funny quote. And then I go in and look, and it's the name of the episode.
So I have to admit that I kind of like stole that convention from the Dave and Jeb Armin, the David Roth and Jeb Lund, their podcast about Hallmark movies. And I love every time they reference another episode that they've watched, they talk about the one that they did, and they always had a ridiculous name for it. And I think it's hilarious. So that's why I wanted to do it, just so that when we go back and talk about, that episode, which had Teddy Beckerstead from Better Off Dead, One Crazy Summer, we'd say, instead of whatever the episode was, because I totally forgot, we'd say, they're not going to de-sex Hargitay for the sake of an undercover operation, which I think is a lot more fun. And they didn't.
I think sometimes we're too smart for our own good, and we'll name it something that we think is really funny, and then no one knows what the fuck we're talking about. So like there's the tumescence exam one, which we both love the name of that episode, but if you don't know what tumescence means, that episode name doesn't mean anything to you when you're looking at it. So, if you don't know that tumescence means showing hard.
But that was a straight poll quote. We didn't come up with that. That was Alexandra Cabot said that, not us. So that's where we got that one.
But he got down with an arthropod. Like, The one where Stabler fucked a cockroach in solitary confinement. He got down with an arthropod. You can't really say fuck in the title of a podcast because Apple's gonna fuck you over.
Or the name of your podcast.
Yeah, as you're well aware. Yeah. And I've had to say on the podcast, like, just find him on fucking social media, and then
yeah. I know, it's like search F dash K, and then maybe you'll find it.
Or F asterisk K. Yeah.
Well, I mean, whatever.
Yeah. Fuck him.
Fucking Apple.
Hopefully, Good Pods takes over as the main podcast thing anyway.
That would be nice.
Well, let's talk about what we're drinking.
Yeah.
We know what Jay is drinking.
Yeah, I just ran out.
Already.
Yep.
Ran out of your course.
Yep, that's the way it goes.
You have one more in the fridge. What are you guys drinking?
I'm drinking a Blue Owl Brewing Spirit Animal, which is a sour pale ale.
Huh.
It's fancy.
It's fucking delightful. It's from Austin. We brought it back. I shot something in Austin back in July that I need to edit. And I still have beer left from that because we've been gone too much in the last month and a half. So
nice. I'm drinking a Narragansett Lager, which is basically New York. Well, it's Rhode Island's version of Lone Star or Old Style or whatever.
Or Hams
or Rainier. It's the shitty beer of the Rhode Island parts. But it also happens to be the beer featured in Jaws. So Captain Quint crushes a Narragansett in the famous scene. So yeah, that's what I'm drinking.
And then he says we have to get a bigger boat.
Exactly. The reason I'm drinking it is because this is one of the few cheap-ish beers that I can purchase in this town. Because a 6-pack here typically runs of decent beer is like $12 to $14. 12-pack is usually $20, and we're not talking like really fancy 12-pack. We're talking like normal kind of mass market, I'm thinking in Texas, you get like Carbach or something like that. But like a mass market microbrew is like $20 here for a 12-pack. It sucks.
Is that just because it's New York?
Because it's Manhattan.
It's New York. Partially, it's because they got the can deposit thing, right? So if I really wanted to, I could save all of my stinky empty beer cans and take them. Yeah. Take them someplace, but I'm not that dedicated yet.
It's the same here. You buy a 12-pack and it's 60 cents that you pay extra.
Yeah.
Because it's 5 cents a bottle or can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's also just like New York. New York is expensive. Shit like that. Yeah. Like some stuff is cheap, but not this. Meat is cheap of all things. Like meat is cheap as hell.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Like chicken is cheaper here than it was in New York. I mean, in New York, cheaper here than it was in Texas. But beer is outrageous.
That's so crazy.
But you were paying island prices, Salt Life Schwitters.
Yeah. So yeah, I have to. I'm like habitually living on islands. I used to live in this place called Galveston, which is a very old town. I thought I'd gotten out of the mess of living there because it's perpetually hit by hurricanes and tropical storms and nasty stuff like that. But then I brought all that fucking weather here to New York, and we just had terrible floods here last night.
So what's going to happen the day you happen upon an SVU filming in New York?
I'm waiting for it. I sometimes I see like street is closed signs, and I'm hoping it's going to be SVU, but it hasn't happened yet. But hopefully if I'm there, I'm going to show up with my baby or my dog or both of them. And I'm going to get them to fucking get either the baby or the dog in a shoot. That's what I'm looking for.
That'd be awesome.
Find a second AD.
Yeah, okay. Second AD. That's all I look for. Yeah. Because this is in a long-running bit, is that I always complain about the extra the dogs that they have in SVU. Like, they always be like street dogs, and they're like fancy fucking breeds. So they're like purebred golden retrievers or shih tzus or something like that. And it's like, that's not a street dog. That's not what like gutter punks have.
Yeah.
Anyways, I got a perfect dog for them. And
someday.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see you on SVU.
Cartwheeling through the background.
Absolutely.
grabbing Hargitay.
He'll be shirt cocking in the background.
Yeah.
It'll be like the extra in Teen Wolf in the stands who's zipping up, pulling their dick back in when they're getting up.
I think I missed that.
It's at the very end of Teen Wolf.
Oh man, we're gonna have to rewatch that.
Oh yeah, so
it's been a while.
If you guys aren't familiar with shirt cocking, most people call it Donald ducking, where you just wear a shirt with nothing on.
Yes.
But this is actually a good segue because there was a time when Josh and I have worked many, many jobs together.
6. Counting the podcast.
Yeah, maybe at least.
It is 6. It's 6.
Yeah. Okay. One of them that we postulated that the only way we could get fired was to shirt cock while we were assisting customers.
Oh my
Dude,
God.
how do we get out of this fucking place? I mean, we could both shirt cock tomorrow.
Because stealing from the job did not get you fired. That is for sure.
Jesus. I feel like our place of employment is very similar. It takes a lot for people to be let go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does.
You can be complete shit at your job for 20 years.
We work together.
Nice.
But we're in different departments, but we work in the same company, and you can be the biggest piece of shit employee, not do your job. And when you do it, it's like you don't know how to do it. And they'd be like, well, maybe you should try a little harder. When most people are like, no, fucking get them out.
Yeah.
Get them the fuck out of here.
I feel like that's a good strategy, though, if you're in that kind of job and you know it, right? Like you can work your way into a specific area where you're doing as little work as possible, and yet people think that you're too stupid to do any more work, so they don't give you any extra, right?
You got to set that bar low,
Yeah, it's a good grift.
But it's frustrating when the people above you are those people you're talking about.
Sure. Yeah, when they failed up into that position.
Yeah.
And they know that, like, look, I am where I am and I'm not doing shit.
Yeah. That reminds me of a Seinfeld where Elaine is running the J. Peterman catalog because J. Peterman's like gone to Malaysia to get into an opium den or something like that. And she is promoting this like frothing at the mouth, like Vietnam vet guy who's got sleeveless military jacket on. Anyways, and he's eventually a vice president of the company, and it pisses everybody off.
That's the way it happens.
Yep. Yeah, the way it goes.
So you guys worked a lot of jobs together, right?
Yeah, we started working together in May 2005. That's when because we both got hired at this coffee shop.
Yep.
That's how we met each other. We were getting hired at this place called Spider House. We'll say the name. Fuck it.
Yeah, because they're closed, so fuck them.
Oh, they are? For real? Wow, that's crazy. Anyway, so we got hired at this place, Spider House. We both worked at Spider House for far too long, even though it wasn't, I don't even know if it was.
Which was only 2.5 years, but.
God, it felt like for
still too
fucking ever. Eventually, I was like an assistant manager there. Josh never got to that point. This place tried to be everything to everybody. It had this amazing back patio, and it's in this very old house, and it's a coffee shop that in the course of us working there also turned into a full bar that also had dinner and service and all kinds of other bullshit. The people that owned it were complete pie in the sky hippie idiots. And that was great.
And only one of them, I'll be fair to Conrad.
Yeah.
He actually like had the vision and the money to support this.
Yeah.
The other two had no business running.
Well, they were like the business people, supposedly. Anyways.
Air quotes around business people.
Before Josh and I started working there, it would have been a great place to work because it was kind of like just basically like a workers' commune. The people that worked there ran the fucking asylum, and they were all like way too cool for school. These were like the coolest Austin people ever. And then Josh and I get hired there, and at least I was thinking, oh, great.
This was a sign.
Yeah, I'm like
getting hired there.
Yeah, I'm like friends with these. I was working in the mornings. Josh, I think you're working nights. Yeah, at this point, they like hired somebody to clean up shop, and she butted heads with all the old employees, and they all quit immediately within the first like month or so of us working there. And so after like a month, I'm fucking running the show in the morning, and I had no business doing that. And then soon after that, they hired this, I don't know, this like French guy. He was running the show. Anyways, eventually it went through a number of different kind of management solutions. Mm-hmm. And they wound up hiring this guy I'll preface this. These people owned a lot of stuff. They owned a video rental store. They owned dry cleaners.
And the video store actually, so Spider House was so unsuccessful that for a solid decade or
At
more
least.
of being open, it was in the red every month.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But the video store, because the video store was still profitable in 2004 or 5.
Yeah.
The video store, they basically used the money from that, which was across the alley, to keep the coffee shop open.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
it's kind of amazing how things have changed, right? Because could you imagine like a video store keeping anything else open in 2021?
Right.
Yeah. But
well, and like just to give you a little more background on like how their hiring process didn't have a rhyme or reason to it.
Yes.
There was one morning that we were working, and the manager of the dry cleaning place, the eco-friendly dry cleaning place that they had across the alley, he used to come in every morning, and he was super friendly and whatever. And there's this one morning where suddenly we're told he can't come on the property anymore. And it turned out that he had been depositing checks that were written to EcoClean into his personal checking account.
He was basically taking the drop at the end of the night or the end of the week and just putting it straight into his account.
Nice. Oh my God.
But like to the tune of $20,000.
Nice. I mean,
it all turned out that this guy had a criminal record, and they didn't do a criminal background check when they hired him to run their business for them.
Oh my God.
Which segues into the next story.
Yeah,
because all of a sudden, so Spider House which is at this point, it's like a year and a half or so into Josh and I working there, and it's failed upwards. It's become this like empire. It's massive. There's like bands playing there. The Seeds.
They have a whole separate
there.
side room. Like nothing makes sense about this place being successful. But
it's like sprawling and immense, and it's incredibly stressful place to work. But it's
still not turning a profit.
No.
How is that possible? Because someone was stealing all the money, or
no. So they hire this guy who's way too qualified for this job, right? So this job, I don't know,
way too qualified. He had been a like district manager at Starbucks.
Yeah, so he was probably making, I don't know, 150, 200K or something in that job, like overseeing lots of stores, getting hired on a new job, which I don't know what they're paying him, but I would hazard to guess something around 40 or 50K, like not that much.
Maybe 60 because of how overqualified he was, but
maybe. But so we didn't at first kind of question why that was, but this guy was much more professional than anybody else we'd worked with there. And
I mean, easily the best manager we'd worked for the entire time we were there.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, in one aspect, he had his shit together and was very good at running a business.
No, I mean, just in the sheer manager sense of the job, he was easily the best one we worked for.
Now, he had this kind of feeling like he was like a handsy older uncle or something, the guy that would kind of rub your back too long while you're working with him. He would tell us stories about when we talk about traveling, he'd be, I've been to Cuba. I've been to Thailand. I've been to Russia.
I've been to Moscow. I've been to the Czech Republic. I've been to Tijuana.
Yeah.
It sounds like an SVU episode.
Yeah. At one point, we were, I think, was it you and me that were calling him Uncle Brian, or was it somebody else? Maybe it was Katie.
I used to call him everyone's favorite sex tourist.
Yeah. Well, funny story about that. So I was working one day, and I was working with Anna. I remember that very well.
Mm-hmm.
And both of us had severe fuck-its at this point. And one of us was reading the paper. I think it was Anna. And she was like,
well, okay, wait. Okay, so, all right. So it's like a Friday, and he's like, oh, I'm going to have to leave. I've got to go take care of my ailing mother.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about this. He told everybody that he had to take care of his ailing mother in New York.
There was a big going away party for him. He gave, like, he was moving and wasn't going to need any of his stuff. So, like, he gave his bed to one of the other shift managers.
Yeah, and he was just gone. And this was not a job that you leave. This is not a job you give 2 weeks notice for. And he gave, like, 1 week notice. This is a job. There's, like, he had to train somebody how to juggle this fucking catastrophe of a business. It was going to take a while. And so, yeah, he was just gone. And then about a week after that.
No, it was the next morning.
Yeah, it was the next morning.
It was absolutely, it was next morning. Yeah.
So open the Metro section of the newspaper, because we still read the newspaper then. It was before like smartphones. And The headline story on the Metro section was sex tourist sentenced to 20 years.
No.
And with a picture of my boss, who I had to work with every fucking day for like 6 months.
His housekeeper, when he was still at Starbucks, his housekeeper had stumbled onto his sex dungeon where he had a very broad big collection of child pornography.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh shit.
Some of which apparently was self-produced.
Oh
from
my
what
But
we
they
understand.
couldn't. But they couldn't prove that it was produced in the U.S. and they couldn't prove that it was him in it. Though the child did refer to the camera operator as his name.
Yeah.
So he was basically there were only 2 items of child pornography that they could prove that he had bought in the US that were domestically produced. So that was all they were actually able to convict him on. So it was 2 counts of child pornography. He was a doughy man.
Yeah. He was soft. Yeah.
Yeah, he was soft.
Not obese, but soft.
He would have fit in at Derry's birthday party on Letterkenny. And so he went to Huntsville. He got out surprisingly.
Yeah, that's how it works. I mean, you get out fairly quickly. I'm sure he was older.
Well, no. I'm surprised that he made it
older.
Out.
I mentioned
how long was he in?
You only end up.
I think it was 8 years.
Yeah, that's kind of a long time, honestly.
Yep.
You often end up only serving like a 7th or so of your sentence. So
I just checked. He got released in 2015, so I think it was about 8 years.
Damn. Yeah. Anyways, so that day I had called every single person that we worked with, which was something like 35 people. And I told all of them, I didn't tell them what the story was. I just told them to stop what they were doing and go buy the paper and read the Metro section. And everybody did it because everybody called me back about 5 minutes later after they did
Holy
one of our buddies got out of jail that morning and got out of jail, walked down to the coffee shop that Adam and I ended up leaving that one for. Mm-hmm. And walked down it was kind of the little city walk of shame that you would do if you got thrown in jail for something, and then the next morning when you're finally released you'd walk to Little City because your phone was invariably dead and you'd need a phone you'd need to be able to use a phone to call somebody or to be able to charge your phone there, I guess. And so he got out that morning and was like, well, at least that made my night in jail worth it, because that's the weirdest fucking thing I've ever gotten out of jail to.
Holy shit.
And
that is like a fucking SVU episode.
Yeah, it really is.
Josh, I honestly don't even remember what caused us to quit that fucking job. It just was like...
No, we both got the job at Little City.
Yeah, but also Spider House was getting just more and more irritating all the time.
Yeah,
but I don't remember specifically. But yeah.
I mean, I wanted to quit within a year of working there,
But midway through working here, we already had gotten another job together, which was even more ridiculous than this coffee shop. We worked at it was our only office job together, well, sort of like actual office. But it was online traffic reporting. So we worked at this office where we would contract out traffic reporting, like traffic reports to local media. So in the morning it would be the drive time TV, in the afternoon it would be the radio station.
NBC, the NBC affiliate in Austin used our data.
Yeah, but like a bunch of radio stations did. And this job was fucking ridiculous because it had all of the tropes of a dumb office job, but was just 3 of us in the office at a given time. And one of them was our boss, who is still to this day, I think, the least capable human I've ever met. He had been
he had been a radio guy in the DFW area.
Yeah, he did. Okay. He worked for the Cowboys in some capacity, but he got bounced out of DFW Radio Society and wound up on the rocks of life. Like he's like floating on a beach somewhere, and he just is crashed against the rocks of reality. And it was being a downtrodden, pathetic alcoholic in this shitty office in Northeast Austin. And
this is the sort of office, like I feel like we need to paint a picture of how shitty this office was. Yeah. So you've ever worked in an office building where like multiple businesses are renting out suites and whatever? Well, this is one of those 2 office suites.
Okay.
With a bathroom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it is straight up 2 suites, and you're like, who the fuck, what business would need this?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this one does.
This one does, yeah. And it was right across the street from one of the worst high schools in Austin. It was down the street from where a meth lab explosion happened while I was working one day, which was kind of awesome because I could hear about it on the police scanner.
On the police scanner. Yeah.
And then I could walk outside to see the plume of smoke go up. But anyway, so this guy was so pathetic. He would try to convince us that he had a girlfriend, which he did not have. He had like photo because he would go to these like radio galas in Dallas. And so he had pictures with himself next to like weather girls and like news reporter chicks, professionally hot women, you know, like, he is not the kind of guy that is dating these people. And so he'd have pictures of him like hugging one, and we'd hear him in his office, because there was just 2 offices. We'd hear him in his office, like loudly talking on the phone. But it was one of those phone systems where you can see if somebody's on the other line. And we could look down and see that nobody was on the line. And he's just talking to try to convince us that he's talking to somebody. Man, this guy. So one time, one of my favorite Tim stories, bless his heart, he told us all to pitch in for a water cooler. And it was like, oh, yeah, that'd be nice. I would like to be able to drink water at the job. This would be great. So I gave him a couple bucks. I don't remember. There's one guy, I'm totally blanking on his name, but the guy who was always there in the morning, Josh, you probably worked with him more than I did. The one who was there the longest, he was like, no, Tim.
No, I don't really know that guy.
No, Tim, I'm not giving you any money for this. This is dumb. I'm not giving you any money for this. Well, he was right, because Tim buys this thing. Turns out he bought it from Savers, which is a local thrift store. Mm-hmm. And it was missing a key ingredient. It's supposed to have an O-ring in the water cooler so that when you dump it over, it doesn't spill out. So Tim gets this thing, dumps the water, immediately floods the whole office. Like 2 inches of water in the whole office. So for the rest of the shift, Tim is there with a mop trying to push water out the front door.
On carpet.
Unbelievable. And then he'd walk in. We had, this job, because we're doing news, we'd have all the local news channels on. We'd have police scanners going, whatever. So he'd walk in.
While he was there.
Yeah. Josh and I would watch Degrassi, the Next Generation, when he would leave.
Yeah.
But while he was there, we'd have it like on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, whatever. And he'd walk in, and there's this one particular anchor woman who
ended up in LA, by the way.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Nice. Mm-hmm. Well, he called her Star Power. Yeah. And I apologize for saying this because it's really odious. But every time he'd see her, he'd walk in and go, oh, Star Power, I'd like to finger bang her. That's what he would say. Yeah.
There you go.
Classy dude.
Yeah, and so we had a woman who was like the on-air talent that we worked with, and she would fly around in the airplane. Josh got to fly in the airplane, so maybe you can tell us a story about that, Josh. But he would try to get her to go out on dates with him all the time. It was really awkward and not cool. And another of my favorite moments at this job was we had the corporate from Chicago made us do like a sexual harassment seminar, like a normal HR thing. Our boss made all of us come to the office, and we'd sit down in a room and all watch this thing. And Tim was sitting there like right in front of the computer on the floor, like clicking next and making sure that the thing was right. And every single one of us is sitting behind him. And every time the person on screen is talking, we're looking at Tim and going, yeah, he's done that. Oh, he's done that too. Mm-hmm. Oh, he's done that. He's definitely done that.
Yeah.
That was a fun meeting. And finally, the end of Tim at that job was we were trying to get a new office. We were going to have an office there was like a new emergency management facility in Travis County. That's where Austin is. And so he was going to meet clients there. And of course, to go into this place, you have to show your ID to the sheriffs who patrol the place. There's a checkpoint. And so Tim is pulling up to the checkpoint, and the clients are in the car behind him. And he gets out, shows them his ID. Apparently, he's got outstanding warrants. So they cuff his ass right there in front of the clients.
Oh, my God.
And that was the end of Tim.
Do we know what his warrants were for?
I assume it was
Was it another child pornography?
It was traffic. No, it wasn't anything that cool. He had a bar in the trunk of his car. I assume it was like some like unpaid DUI bullshit. One time he was moving
Oh God, this is my favorite bit.
He fucked up his move because sometimes there's like an overlap, right? Well, he messed up the overlap, so he ended up moving out of his first apartment 2 weeks before he could move into his next apartment. So he just lived in the office for 2 weeks.
Jesus.
And this is a very small office suite that all of his shit was in.
And this man was like a non-functional alcoholic too. He did not smell good. Like his sweat was rank.
Jesus. It was pickled. He was pickled.
Yeah. So one of our coworkers, like the door would open, you could see this like green fog kind of emanating from this room. Oh, it's horrifying.
But the stretch of him living at the office was the most fucking absurd. Like, I can't believe I'm here watching this happen.
Yeah. That job, eventually I get to tell those people to fuck themselves because they downsized the office to one person, as they probably rightly should have.
To be fair, it absolutely should have been a one-person office. It was like, you'd be sitting there, two of you, and you'd be like, this is so fucking stupid. Like, they have way too many people here at two people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so curious the logistics of that job. What exactly did you do?
So we had during rush hour, there would be a plane that went around, and we'd have a spotter in the plane with the pilot, and they'd also go on air. So I had to do that a couple times. It was fucking terrifying. Like, you're in a single engine plane that takes off from like a hobby airport, and oh fuck! I thought I was gonna die the entire fucking time.
Yeah.
So yeah, they'd have one person in a plane that would go around and like spot if there was an accident, like give updates and whatever. And if you heard there was an accident somewhere, you would like get on the radio and like tell the plane, okay, there's a radio that way. So we'd be monitoring the police scanners.
Yeah.
We'd have the traffic cam feed that we'd like sort of update like where heavier traffic was starting. And you could do it. That was so rote. You just knew at like 2:45. Oh, well, now southbound on I-35 is backed up to fucking 183 or whatever.
Yeah, and most sheriff's departments have this like this basically like database feed that they put out.
PIO, maybe not PIO, but something like that.
But it's like the traffic incident reports, and it just is like automatically updating. And so most of what we would end up doing is just like putting what popped up on that into the format. But the funny thing about this damn format is it was a proprietary software thing, right? Where we had these drop down menus. We put everything into these fields and have these drop down menus. And the biggest one was that we had to like select like how bad is the traffic. We had a whole rainbow of different,
like 9 qualifiers, I think,
that we could use, but our boss would only allow us to use either like basically like
generally jammed,
light, or generally jammed. So the only like bad one we could use was generally jammed. So that was always going to be the name of the show about that office if I was going to make it generally jammed.
There was no nuts to butts.
Let's take a moment to hear from another great indie podcast.
So, have you ever thought about what would happen if your airline window popped out?
Or if you can build a jetpack using only machine guns.
Well, we found out you could, but you really shouldn't. Hi, I'm Jill Chacha.
And I'm Marissa Riley.
Together, we have one comedy sciencey show called, well, That's Interesting.
It's for folks who like to learn about weird stuff, like how hair can grow between your teeth and what happens if the moon disappears.
If you need a break from the world or need interesting stuff to bring up at a party when those happen again, come on by.
Find Well That's Interesting wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
And we're back.
Make sure you go give that podcast a listen.
Did we switch up drinks? What's everyone drinking now?
I'm in the same world.
I'm drinking. I don't think I ever said what I was drinking.
No, you didn't. Yeah.
I am drinking Karl Strauss Oktoberfest.
Ooh.
Okay.
Which came out kind of early, I guess. But this is one of my favorite beers.
Well, it's September now, so it makes sense.
It's October.
Yeah, but I've had it for a few weeks.
Oh, nice.
I bought a case of it, and I've been slowly making my way through it because it's one of my favorite. It's a good beer. It's like it's an easy drink. I like it. The San Diego brewery, right?
Nice. Well, and San Diego is like the epicenter
beer
of
mecca.
craft beer.
Yeah, it really is. There's just beer everywhere, but it's all fucking IPAs, which everyone
Everything is
but me loves.
Well, I mean, they're very nice in the summertime, and it's it's always sunny in San Diego, right? So
I'm drinking a hazy.
A hazy IPA?
Hazy IPA.
Yeah, to spite you, I guess. Okay.
I mean, to each their own. They're just not for me.
Yeah, so I'm drinking Twisted X Brewing out of Dripping Springs, Texas. Yeah. They're McConaughey's.
McConaughey's. All right.
Indeed.
Anywho.
Yeah. Oh, drink. Sorry.
Yeah, drink. Mm.
So Adam and I left the one coffee shop to work at another coffee shop.
It was a much better coffee shop.
Little City, which is also sadly dead.
Yeah, Little City died. It was actually killed by a Republican lobbying firm in Austin. They wanted to build like this improbable skyscraper on this property, but they bought us out and basically.
And it was a historically protected property, so they were never going to be able to do that. But those dick fucks thought they could. So
it was going to cost a near infinite amount of money, but still, yeah.
And they had hitched their wagon to the Rick Perry engine.
Yeah, and David Dewhurst. It was Perry and Dewhurst was kind of one wing of the Texas Republican Party, and they ended up getting outsmarted by Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick and these other scumbags. In fact, I was working at Little City the night that Barack Obama was elected president back in 2008. And Perry and Dewhurst were sitting next door at the fancy restaurant owned by another ridiculous piece of shit who ended up burning his own restaurant down, not on purpose.
With oily rags. If you've ever heard the crazy thing. Okay, so he burned it down. He like straight up had oily rags in a fucking pail or whatever. They fucking caught fire, like self-immolated, and fucking burned his place down.
He had well over $100,000 in wine there, and it was not insured for that. Not nearly insured for that. Yeah. I know how much wine he had because he used to impress me by opening fancy bottles of wine. Once he opened a $3,000 bottle of wine and let me drink a glass of it.
Was it amazing, or was it wine?
It was great, but it was still wine. I mean, it's not like
still not worth $3,000.
No.
Still, if I'm like, so I live in a 4th floor walk up. And I have to carry a child, and usually I've got like laundry or some other bullshit on my back. If I got to the top of the stairs, do I want that $800 glass of wine, or do I want this Narragansett lager from Rhode Island? I want this fucking beer. I don't want that glass of wine. But yeah, it was fine. Whatever. He gave me Cuban cigars too. He never let me drive his Ferrari. Josh, he had the Magnum PI Ferrari at one point. Yeah. God, man, that was nice.
The F40.
Yeah.
Was it the F40 that Magnum PI had? I don't think it was. I don't think it was the F40.
I don't know if he specifically had the exact model, but it was definitely an early 80s, whatever. Was it a Testarossa at that point? I don't even know. But gorgeous car.
I think it was a 308.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it's 308 QTS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Or GTS, sorry. GTS. I looked it up.
This coffee shop was very down urban for Austin. Like Austin is like a spread out, kind of laid back college town, right? And less so now. But this one coffee shop is right next to the state capitol. So we got all the politicos going in there. It's like right on Congress Avenue, which is the main drag through downtown and where all the bus lines would go. And in particular, we had all of the kind of most aggressive, angry, homeless population in Austin would be up and down Congress Avenue. And these were the people like we interacted with on a daily basis. I only work nights there. Well, not only, but I mostly work nights there. And nights there meant me being alone. And it meant being alone, like with like 2 people studying, one guy named Todd, who's like one of the dearest, sweetest men in the world, but he's a gigantic black man with a giant weird bump on his head that would sometimes get larger and sometimes get smaller. Like I assume it's a tumor. I don't really know, but it kind of caused schizophrenic like symptoms. And he would just be sitting there talking to himself loudly. Sometimes he'd like have like fake phone conversations with himself. And so we'd have him, we'd have two people like sitting there studying. We had this like there was this one guy named Mark who would bring in these four, again, older men from, they weren't, how do I
from a deaf group home.
Yeah, it was like a deaf group home. So these are guys who were developmentally challenged and also deaf and also like in their 50s and 60s. And so they didn't really speak sign language, and they couldn't hear or talk. But so they were kind of in their own world. And so he would bring them in, he'd bring them sandwiches, and I didn't give a shit if he'd let them eat sandwiches in there. So they come in, they'd eat them, and he'd talk to me about philosophy or something while they're like basically like jerking off in the middle of the coffee shop or like doing something else weird and like waving at people. And it was a wonderful scene there. In many ways, this was the least weird job that we worked at.
Yeah.
Like,
pretty much. Yeah. I mean, the only thing that sticks out to me that made it bad weird was whenever that old lady Marie would come in and to use the bathroom. And after she used it, you'd go and check on it, heart sinking, and you'd go in and she had smeared shit all over the walls.
I feel like I need to tell you what her drink order was, because it was amazing. So Marie would order a glass of white wine. She was French and she was old and she was crazy. She would order a glass of white wine. She would ask us to microwave it. And then she would also order a to-go thing of cream cheese, and she would mix the cream cheese and sugar into her microwaved glass of white wine, and then drink
that's why she was shitting everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she would pay for this, right?
I don't even remember. This job, like half of the people that came in were like, no, you could just give it to them. No, Marie had money. Marie actually had money. I remember that, because there was a time when her son came in or something. She had like some kind of issue, and her son was like, thank you guys for taking care of her. He like thanked us. It was like a touching weird moment.
We've been microwaving wine and sugar and cream cheese for her.
Yeah.
all in the same thing.
And there was just all of these crazy. There was this one crazy guy named Foghat who.
Foghat, Jesus Christ, that fucking guy.
We called him that because he used to say, "I ain't no fool for the city." He had this ridiculous voice, like, "I ain't no fool for the city. Like, I smoked it, I drank it, I shot it, I snorted it, I done everything, but I ain't no fool for the city." And he was crazy, and he'd just sit there, and I'd give him like all the crazier they were, as long as they were like congenial, I would just give them free coffee. So Foghat got free coffee, Todd got free coffee, but one day Foghat like comes in and he's like, "Man, they're beating on her. And I'm like, what's going on, man? What's going on? And he's like, "Hold on." And he like runs outside, and there was some woman in a wheelchair who was getting assaulted by somebody on the street. And this Foghat, who was a very strange looking man, he wore like deck boots for a boat, like shrimpers boots, and like big shorts, and they didn't really meet very well. And oftentimes he'd wear like this like ridiculously oversized Texas flag kind of Western wear shirt. But he's like running down the street to like rescue this woman in a wheelchair from somebody who was assaulting her. So he like saved the day one time. I really fear for that guy. I miss him. It's one day he disappeared, and I can't imagine it ended well. But that place, I had people threaten my life on numerous occasions. I know somebody like pulled a gun on people there once. I wasn't working, thankfully. But we'd like open the back. I opened the back door once when I was taking out the trash, and there was somebody shooting up back there. It was that kind of job. But it was wonderful, and it was sad when it went away.
I really do miss that place.
Yeah, that was a great place. And then the last job we have is we worked briefly. We worked at this like
art gallery.
I guess it was more like a gig. It was an art gallery that my ex-girlfriend was running. And so this place was opened by the guy who owned it, had way too much money and didn't know the art business. And he hired this amazing dude who was like a openly gay Dominican monk to run the place. And this guy was a fucking badass. And of course, this guy got like legit artists into this gallery. Yeah. And then the owner guy realized that he actually didn't have the money to keep this thing going for very long. So he fired the guy. And my ex, who was the intern, they were like, "Here, you do it." And so she was running this place, and they was basically
like 2 years out of UT, right?
Oh, yeah,
like thereabouts. Yeah.
She was like running out the string basically on like shows that he had already set up. Which was fun. But like celebrities would go in there. Like Quentin Tarantino was telling me about his diarrhea once in this place. But I mean, I don't have any particularly great stories from that one. But then finally, the last job is kind of the most, in some ways, the most absurd one, because both of us worked there for like 10 years, right, Josh?
I was there for 8.5. Yeah.
It's somewhere between nautical catering and pleasure boating. It's definitely in that milieu.
There's a description.
Yeah, nautical catering.
But also with like canoe and kayak rentals and paddle boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sort of your catch-all water recreation point in central Austin.
Austin has a famous bat colony, and so the bats fly out like 9 months out of the year, and so people at dusk want to see the bats fly out, and that's like the genesis of the business.
Yeah.
And our boss was like the manager, he was like the assistant manager. And eventually, I guess he ran out of different options in life, and so the last. Well,
I was in like his first wave of hires after he bought the business from the original owner.
Yeah,
and I mean, like, it's one of those things, at least you're working for someone who knows how the business actually works.
Yeah.
Like, so often you're working for someone who...
And he's a great guy, so...
Yeah. Like, maybe the best boss I've had.
Yeah, a great guy. And so that's part of the reason why we worked there so goddamn long, is because we liked our boss, and we were doing something... We were working outside, but it paid well, and it had lots... Every day was different. So if you've seen Party Down... It's kind of like a season of Party Down. Every day is a whole different ridiculous fuck show, and there's something going wrong.
Not generally because of the crew, not generally because of the employees. Well, I don't want to say I don't want to throw too many of the employees under the bus. A lot of it's related to just. I mean, if you're working in service, people have unrealistic expectations of what they should be getting, and not everyone's as good at managing those expectations as I was. I was so fucking good at telling people no.
Yeah. Well,
oh, you want to do that? No, that's not going to work. And I could do it like really authoritatively, so like I'd be able to explain why it's not going to work and like walk them away from this fucking terrible idea. I mean, that didn't mean you weren't still going to get dipshits. Like I was driving a boat one day and they were shooting a like live performance video for that fucking stupid band Walk the Moon. And they're shooting a video upstairs for their big whatever dance, Shut Up and Dance With Me or some bullshit like that. Well, I had to hear that song like 5 fucking times on that cruise. And I really hated that song already. So like hearing it again was like, oh, fuck, great. But anyway, so they're shooting the video and the fucking guy, the contact, the producer from Vivo, like reached up to catch the fucking drone out of the air and sliced the shit out of his hand.
Trevor Bauer.
And like the drone op was like, no, stay the fuck away. Stay, like, as he's bringing it into land on the boat, he's like, stay away. And the producer ignored him, reached up and sliced the shit out of his hand. So he's bleeding everywhere. He comes down. He's like, hey, do you have a rag? And he's like dripping blood through the boat. So he gets like a clean rag to like stanch the bleeding. Then back upstairs, a girl had fainted from all of the blood. So on this cruise, we had to call 2 ambos. We had to call 2 ambos to come in because this dipshit wouldn't just listen to the drone op and like slice the shit out of his hand. So he needed an ambo and she needed an ambo because she fainted.
We had stuff like this all the time though with this job. So like the guy who jumped off the bridge and landed on top of our boat, shattering both of his legs. He was apparently tripping on acid or something. This was
he was tripping balls. He was tripping balls in a drum circle and jumped off of a pedestrian bridge. Only in Austin, I guess.
Felt like
that's the most Austin thing I've ever heard.
Shattered both legs. It is a long ways from this bridge. A long ways. Like this guy could have died from loss of blood on that. It's a horrifying accident. Anyways,
the captain from that cruise ran into him later at Spider House.
Oh Jesus!
The bar that he ran into him later, and the guy started telling him the story, and Steve was just kind of like sitting there quietly, and he's like, "Yeah, I drove that boat."
Oh my god! So was there like a boat full of tourists at that time when he did it?
It was an Alamo Drafthouse cruise.
Yeah. So actually, it was Harry Knowles. It was his birthday party because he was in good graces back then. I don't know.
Yeah, it was before his Me Too reckoning.
Yeah, so he got Me Too'd. He was a famous film reviewer online. I forget what his website was. Anyways,
Ain't It Cool News?
Ain't It Cool News? That's it. But anyway, so this guy, he had that happen, and then his next birthday, there was a horrible flood that was almost caused the boats to get ripped off the dock, and we had to. This guy is morbidly obese and
and every time it rains in Austin, because the Texas soil doesn't absorb any of the water.
It was a wet year.
Every time it rains, it just all of the water goes into the creek beds and fills right into the lake because the lake floods. Is on the river downtown, so it floods. Anytime you get a heavy rain, you've got to worry about flooding because they'll let the water out from the dams upstream before they'll let the water out from the dam, forming this lake.
Yeah.
So.
Also, that dam doesn't work. That dam doesn't work.
There is that too. Yeah,
but that's inside baseball. But
yeah, but it would flash flood, and then the lake level would go up 4 fucking feet, and we're our docks are set pretty close to lake level, and so the water level is seriously coming up to the point where it's lapping up onto the hike and bike trail.
Yeah,
so up a full 4 feet from where it should be. And so we got to a point where he's in a fucking wheelchair and he's not going to be able to get off the boat if we don't get him off then and there. Yeah. And so his second birthday party was also
a total bust.
Just a fucking a bust from the gods basically. It wasn't yeah.
And he took it as a sign and never booked another birthday party with us.
I was gonna say he came back after the guy jumped and broke both his legs. And he's like, you know what? Let's do this again.
Yeah, I mean, but there's too many of these bizarre things. But we would field phone calls. There was one day when Mannix, who was another ridiculous character, and I were trying to tell a car company how they could put a Fiat on top of our boat for a photo shoot. And we just spent 2 hours figuring out how to do this.
There was also, we were in talks with a production company who wanted to use our Swan pedal boats. And they were going to have Pike and I. Pike was one of the other captains who we talk about on the podcast fairly frequently because he lives in New York now, and he lived in LA.
He lived in LA with Josh. Now he lives in New York with me, and he's a colorful character. And so, right.
Yeah. We could do a whole podcast about Pike probably. But Pike and I were trying to scheme this way to get a there and back trip where we would shepherd the Swan pedal boat to LA for them to shoot with it and then bring it back. And it would be we were trying to pull this where basically the two of us would each make $5,000 doing this dumb shit.
It didn't work though.
It didn't work. Yeah. Well, we were also kind of hey, dipshits, there's Swan pedal boats on fucking Echo Park Lake, right?
Right.
So to give you a sense of some of what you have to deal with in a nautical environment that is not well thought out or well managed, because after this job, I went to work in the ocean. I'm a Coast Guard licensed mariner now. And so I know what it's like to work in a more professional nautical environment. In this case, we would rent out these small boats to random assholes. Basically, there were these they're called Duffies. They're basically golf carts with a propeller on the back, and you drive around in them.
And Corey Feldman would rent them and take out his angels on it.
We had celebrities at this place. We have a lot of good celebrity stories. From this job.
Yeah.
But so one time these were the bane of our existence because basically we have to deal with cruises that cost a shitload of money, people's weddings, business cruises. They're really stressful and you want to get it right. Yeah. And we also had to deal with bat cruises, which is irritating tourists who want to sit there and stare at bats. And they're angry if the bats come out, and they're angry if the bats don't come out because they're tourists and they don't know what's going on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
We also have to deal with a hotel that doesn't like us because we run in and we're sweaty and we're yelling at them.
Never mind the fact that we're their highest paying fucking customer. We give them more money than any other motherfucker ever.
Yeah.
And they're still like treating you like shit. So,
and we also have to deal with like idiots renting out kayaks and stand-up paddle boards, like bros trying to impress their girlfriends or whatever. Mm. But in the midst of all this, we have these boats that are like real boats, but dumber.
But operated by idiots.
And operated by complete and total fucking idiots. And we have to stop and tell them how to work the boat. And we have to put them out and hope that they make it back. And a lot of times they didn't. They'd get stuck and we'd have to go save them. But
the other issue is they have like each of them has 3 feet of draft, so it's pretty easy to run that boat aground.
Yes.
We're in a relatively shallow lake, and so like it's not hard to run the boat aground if you don't pay attention when we fucking tell you how to operate the boat and what to watch out for.
There's no depth finder on there's no nautical chart for these lakes, right? Like we are the only people that sort of know where the bottom is, and we don't fully know because it moves. It's a river system.
Yeah.
So this one time in particular, I remember. So I was there with Pike that we just mentioned, and we get a phone call, and they're like, "Hey man, the boat's on fire." And we're like, "Oh shit, where are you?" And so Pike and I probably grabbed a couple beers and we jumped on one of the small boats and we go out to go meet them. And we were like off. We're just waiting for them to come back. We run out to go meet them. And we're pretty practiced at this kind of operation. So we pull up alongside, we tie him up. Pike jumps on there to like check out what's wrong. It's an electrical fire, and if you turn off the engine, there's not really an electrical fire anymore. So it wasn't like we weren't that worried about the fire. They were, but we weren't that worried about it. But anyway,
it just smelled like burning cables.
There was flames, Josh. There was flames.
Okay,
and so Pike like looks back where that shit is when there are flames, and he looks back behind there's like a seat cushion, and he pulls the seat cushion back, and I'm on the other boat trying to keep us all together and steady, and he pulls it back and he goes, "Oh shit," like that. I'm like, what did Pike just say? He like closes the thing real quick. He's like, "It's not a big deal. You guys can get off right here. And we'll take it back." And then he comes and tells me, he's like, "Oh my God, there were like 3 rats that came out and looked at me right as I opened the seat cushion up."
And it's one of those things where like it's a boat on a dock.
They're everywhere.
As much as you want to be able to keep rats out of a boat, you're not going to. If it's always docked, like it's just sometimes they're going to be rats. You put out traps, you do all of the work, but
Ladybird Lake is what it's called now. It was Town Lake when we started there. Ladybird Lake has a natural shoreline. It is a natural environment. It's got bass, it's got gar, it's got carp in it, it's got shitloads of turtles, mostly because we fed them fajitas for many years. It's got snakes, it's got raccoons, and it's got rats, and it's got lots and lots of fucking rats. And we like a lot of our job was thinking like a rat, placing traps where the rats would go, and then having our boss tell us that we had to take the rat out of the $1 trap that just broke a rat's neck and reuse the trap later on tonight. That was always a fun conversation to have.
Yeah.
I remember once. So there was like a dead rat in one of those small boats, and somehow there was like bilge water. Bilge water gets in boats, and so we were sucking out the water. So we had like shop vacs that we do this. And so we sucked out all the rat water into this shop vac. And then when they die, they smell really bad, like really, really disgustingly bad. And so this one guy who still works there now, he's a very kind of lovable guy that he's like a schlemiel, right? Like bad things happen and it's funny when it happens to him, if that makes sense. Anyways, this poor guy, I love him. He's great.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He's sucking the rat water out, and then he's like dumping the rat water into the lake. And while he's doing that, I don't know what happens. I'm watching the dock, and I just see him like slip, hit the dock, and roll right into the spot in the lake where the rat water is pouring out of this shop vac.
So he just rolls right into the fuck. Like, I've seen it replayed so many times. I've seen people imitate his roll into the lake, and it's just like like he falls over onto his back like a turtle or something, and he's trying to get off of his back and fucking rolls into the goddamn lake right into the rat water. Fucking amazing.
But I mean, I guess my favorite story from this place, I don't know if it's my favorite, but like the showstopper story for me was one day I was So Pike and I were working, and we had to set up like 4 different goddamn boats because we had a million parties, and it takes all day to set up these parties, and you're answering the phone, and it's because it's like an office job and a setup job. And so we're doing this, and in the middle of it, like Pike gets sent on this mission to go get a cake from a cake store in North Austin, like a half an hour away. So it's going to take him over an hour to get there and come back. So I'm like, whatever, dude, I'll just half-ass answer the phone and set up the boats. So he leaves, and while he leaves, one of the rental dock guys comes over to me, and he goes, "Hey, this guy in the Swan said he saw a DEADBODY," and I'm like, "Man, I don't know what you just said to me." I'm like, I don't know what you said.
I can't spell right now.
He's like, "It was a dead body," and I'm like, "Nah." And so the guy comes over, and he's like with his daughter. They were in a swan boat having like a fun day out. And he's like, "I saw it. It's over there under the bridge." And I looked over at it, and I like grabbed like binoculars, and I'm looking at it. And I'm like, "Are you sure? You sure that's not just a volleyball?" And he's like, "Man, I'm a hairdresser. I know what human hair looks like. That is." Because also, to be fair, this was not the first time somebody told me that they found a dead body, and it wasn't a dead body. It was just like a mannequin hand sticking out of the mud. I've seen that too. But
creepy.
And other people have found bodies.
Oh yeah, I was working one day and there was a body on the South Shore. Like, yeah,
what happened?
It's good for a body a year at least.
What happened with this one though is that I called in the dead body, and after like an hour, 2 hours of them poking and prodding it while it was in the water, they decided to pull it out of the water, and they did it right on our rental dock. So like, I'm sitting here at the computer where I am right now, and I'm saying where my fridge is 5 feet away, there's a dead body with a caved in face because it had fallen off a bridge, sitting there while the homicide detectives and the medical examiners are doing the death investigation. And it took hours. And in the course of this, they shut down the whole area. We managed to like.
So, did you want a swan boat, or were you looking to rent? No. Don't worry about that. That's nothing.
So I'm like, I'm just going to stay in here and not ruffle the boat because these are the fucking murder police. They can do what they want to do, right? My dumbass partner Pike. Like, it runs out to scream at them that they did not need to pull the body out onto our dock and they could take it someplace else to do the investigation. I'm like, Pike, shut the fuck up. Like,
I'm with Pike on this. I think it's bullshit that they used our dock to fucking stage a corpse for them to inspect.
Do you know what he
Hey, man, I get paid fucking commission, man.
Yeah, well, that actually sounds like another guy we used to work with. But but what it didn't do was affect me because all I had to do at that point was set up the 2 big boats that were on the other dock that they didn't care about and answer the phones. And I could do that, and I didn't care about the rental business, and they could shut the fucking rental business down. Even though, while I'm like sitting there typing, I'd look over and like, get queasy and want to hurl every 5-10 minutes. Because, of course I looked at it. But eventually, and our poor rental dock guy was like stuck for hours out of the crime scene. And then they let him back in, and there was a stain on the dock. And he had to scrub it.
He had to clean. Yeah, he had to scrub it.
It was bad. Yeah. It was gnarly. I don't wish that on anyone.
Yeah. So no hazmat people came out, and well, I guess not. Is this Austin?
No, not like this. Jay didn't have to come out, or it was Jeremy. Sorry, Jeremy. Jeremy didn't have to come out from Neatcast. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, that guy's had some jobs too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there would be. For the most part, our customers were like, you'd be doing like a wedding function or like family reunion or something like that. Maybe a bachelorette party, but that never really gets out of control. And like a frat party, we always had security on them. So like that was never really going to be an issue. But we had a fucking New Year's cruise that it got back at 1 a.m. on New Year's. And like, there'd be a premium for these party holidays because of the fireworks, and the fireworks were downtown. And so like you'd be out on the lake on a boat with fireworks. So like they'd have paid fairly big premium to rent the boat out. Yeah. And it's got to make it worth it for us because none of us want to work on New Year's unless we're getting actually paid.
Yeah.
So that boat gets back at 1 and it is fucking trashed. The biggest boat we have, the lower levels, like fully enclosable, like carpeted and all this shit. Like, I mean, it's nice enough that you could do like a wedding reception on it. So
A cheap wedding, but
yeah, cheap wedding, but and like a rehearsal dinner works great for, you know, like rehearsal dinner, it's like optimal for that. So they had trashed the boat so much that after like an hour of fucking cleaning up, it was still like you couldn't see how you're going to get out of there before noon. So I had to go grab the fucking leaf blower and blow all of the trash in the boat to the back of the boat, so it was at least in one place to clean up.
Oh my God.
And I had to leaf blow the inside of the fucking boat for a solid 20 minutes.
Oh, Jesus.
We finally got out of there. At like 6:30.
Oh my God.
But it took us 5.5 fucking hours to clean up after these people. It was fucking horrible.
Shit.
We're bearing the lead though, fucking Josh, because the biggest thing that happened at this job was that on Christmas Day 2012, the boat burned down.
The boat what?
I get a phone call on Christmas Day. Yeah. The boat fucking burned down.
Yeah.
What?
A fucking homeless kid had broken onto the boat. And what he had done is the Sterno gel canisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The top pops right off, you know? But he had been taking a fucking bottle opener or a can opener and stabbing it into the top and popping it off that way. And so when he did it, he was next to like the buffet table.
Yeah, that had like nylon.
That had a polyester skirt.
Polyester,
Yeah. And so he lit it right there because he was camping out on one of our smaller boats when we weren't around that like was fully like covered and you wouldn't be able to tell if you were passing by that he was on it. And so on days where like when we weren't there, like on fucking Christmas Day.
Yeah, there's like a couple days around Christmas.
Yeah. So he fucking lit the sterno right there because the lighters were on the boat, lit the sterno right there, and it caught the fucking table skirt on fire. Table skirt goes up, the fucking like shades go up immediately. I get down there because I was in Austin at the time, so I was the only one around who was close. So I get the call from the boss, like, hey, can you go down to the boat? I think it's on fire. And I get down there, and the boat has burned through the moorings and is floating ablaze down the fucking river. We also had, Jesus Christ. We also had like all the batteries on board blew up. We saw video of it later that someone had taken from a condo across the way. And so like all the batteries fucking exploded. But the bigger issue is that it also had propane tanks that we used for heaters.
Oh, no.
We had big propane. No, we had the generator that was running off big propane.
Well, but also heaters. It was the heaters and generator that were all running off of these. And we had like 6 of them on board. One of them blew up and blew through the outside of the one boat onto the next one, like through the wall on the next boat. You're just like, Jesus fucking Christ. You get down there, like it's like the second shittiest Christmas I've had in my life because my grandma died on Christmas too.
Yeah.
But I got down to my job and it's fucking burned down. So then we spent like the next fucking 4 months waiting for the replacement boats. And we're supposed to get them in the first week of March. And then every week you were having to push it back. And like, at least it like they went up in the slow time of the year, January and February aren't that busy, but then March comes around and we're starting to like book, we have South by Southwest cruises and stuff like that. We have all of this shit booked, but every week you're sitting there like, oh fuck, now we got a new ETA on the boat and it's even further away. So then you're spending all of your time when you're not like cleaning up charred fucking wreckage and like rebuilding the dock and doing like, it was fucked. It was the like most depressing fucking 4 months. Every day I'd get off work and I'd fucking go to the 7-Eleven and get a 32-ounce can of High Life and drink it in the shower after. Like I just sit there drinking my 32-ounce can of High Life in the shower every day. That was my shower beer.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than a shower beer, though.
Shower beers are great.
Fucking best.
So our second biggest boat was called the Wheeler. That's at least it was called the Silent Star. That's what his name was. But we called it the Wheeler because it had a fake paddle. All these boats have fake paddle wheels on the back. We called it that. It was the really old one. But when the big boat exploded, what you don't really realize is that aluminum burns and melts. And when the explosion from those propane tanks occurred, it melted much of the aluminum and burned it. And there were these kind of like stalactites of aluminum dripping down on this boat that were very sharp. And that was our office for the next like 3 months, because we're still doing like as much as we were like eating food there and answering the phone and renting out those stupid Duffies because we got those back up. All that happened on those was that the top melted off or burned or something,
and just a little bit, like it was sort of like like little bits of burning.
This thing had like like aluminum stalactites in it, holes in the roof. And I remember being there one day, it was snowing, and I was on this boat while it was like snowing into the boat. And I rented out a canoe to some guy who was going fishing. I think that's all I did that day. But man, what a job that was.
It was a really depressing like 3 months where you're just like scraping shit off of like the dock, just scraping burnt decking off of the dock, or using a fucking Sawzall and using the what's that attachment? The scraping attachment, and like scraping the burned like fucking
melted
like
carpet
vinyl
off
decking. Yeah.
Or like taking a burnt vacuum cleaner off of the dock with a crowbar.
We had to do that.
That was our job for a while. That was kind of fun. I liked it. But so there's a great video that you can see the firefighters running for cover while there's still idiots jogging by, completely oblivious, which is it's very much
Austin in a nutshell.
That's our whole job right there. It's like we're dealing with some catastrophe, and there's some guy jogging by completely.
Some oblivious idiot doing nothing.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, guys.
Yeah, no worries.
Tell us where everybody can find your podcast, Twitter handle, Instagram, all that stuff.
So the podcast is Munch My Benson, and pretty much everywhere we are Munch My Benson. So our Twitter handle is @MunchMyBenson, no spaces. On Facebook, Munch My Benson. On Instagram, @Munch My Benson. On Reddit, we have our Munch My Benson, right?
Yep. Adam's saying all of this stuff because he doesn't do any of it.
I don't do any of it. Yeah. Yeah.
And then
none of it.
We're each on Twitter. I'm @OldManDugan, and he's @AT Schwitters, and Schwitters is spelled with a SCH and a double T. But yeah, I mean, the podcast is pretty much everywhere. And obviously you can go to munchmybenson.com also, because we fucking own that shit.
Yeah.
Everyone go listen to Munch My Benson.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
For fuck's sake, it's a great podcast.
Well, and thank you guys. You guys are really good at promoting independent podcasters. So we really appreciate you guys including us in that.
Yeah,
thank you.
You're welcome. Like I said, I'm a huge fan. Before we even thought about starting a podcast, I've been listening to you guys, and I want everyone to listen to you.
I mean, we want everyone to listen to us too, but
I mean, isn't that the point of the whole podcasting thing?
Yeah, I'd love to never have to work again, other than working on my own stuff. So
same.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for coming on.
We're so happy to come on. We listen to the show. We love the show.
This is awesome.
So everyone go listen to Munch My Benson, even if you don't like SVU or you've never seen it.
There are plenty of episodes we do not like. So
oh yeah,
and also it is like a niche product, right? Because we watch SVU episodes, and they're not new ones necessarily, but at the same time, we watch them from the perspective of people that it's not about SVU really. It's just a show. It's the only show on television that is kind of designed to titillate grandmas who are watching the 7 o'clock hour. Like that's the whole point of the show, is that it's like saying disturbing, awful things that you walk through. Like Jay's doing, he walks in the room. He's not watching the show, but he's like sees the screen, and they're talking about, whatever, anal leakage and steaming inside a 12-year-old. And it makes you stop and go, what the fuck are you watching? And that's kind of why we do that. That's why we do the podcast.
Thank you guys so much.
Send us your stories by email at fmwlpod@gmail.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 310-818-3273. That's 310-818-3273.
You can find us on all the major podcast apps. Be sure to follow and subscribe where you can. If you like what you're hearing, leave us that 5-star review. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, and Podchaser.
You can also join us on Twitter TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at FMWL Pod.
You can support our show by just telling your friends, or you can buy us a beer over on buymeacoffee.com/FMWLPOD.
And as always, support your indie podcasts.
Just do it. Bye, everybody.
Do it.
And I mean, Stabler and Benson are gonna fuck.
They have to, right?